Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of the Humm. Today we will be talking about how designers survive the holidays. Stay tuned. All right, welcome back. As we mentioned before in our intro, we will be talking about how designers survive the holidays. So we all know that the holidays are essentially the craziest time of the year, not only for business owners but also for designers. So, Christian, do you want to walk us through about what you talked through in your perspective?
Sure.
Let's talk about where do we begin? How do we start this process?
For sure. As you mentioned already, like the holidays is the craziest season. So the name of the game for a designer to survive is time. So the key is to be ahead of time, and to do that, really what we try to do is kind of create a checklist of all of our clients, and we look at, okay, who might potentially need a sale or could benefit from one. And then we contact everybody on that list, and it makes it easier to send messages out and be able to track it and start working on your projects. So immediately right away is like planting that seed, you know. So for us, we like to plan 2 months ahead. So we'll pop in that question of like, hey, you know, Black Friday's coming up, and we'll ask around August to kind of gauge, you know, what they're thinking, or at least plant that seed, like I said earlier. And a lot of the times too, what's very interesting is we find a lot of them are like, oh, you know, I wasn't even thinking about that. So, you know, you do two things there, you know, it's like now you show your value because you're thinking about their growth and you're thinking ahead of time. So it definitely puts you in a good spot, and now you're much able to get all the content that you need early on to be able to design and stay on time.
So you mentioned content. What exactly are the contents do we need from our clients to make sure that they do have a successful sale for Black Friday or
so
holidays?
You pretty much need them to define everything, right? So on top of content, you'll need the sales terms. So what's on discount? You know, what's that discount look like? Is it a half off? Is it buy one, get one? You'll want to define which products are on sale, or if it's the entire catalog. And then also deadlines, you know, what's the run date for the sale? So you start to define those basic stuff, and then you start to get into the written copy, right? So now you know what the sale is going to be. You also want them to provide how they want, you know, to say and communicate that message. And the last thing would be any kind of imagery or design styles or ideas that they might want to implement into the campaign. But, you know, once you collect all your written copy, your terms, and your images and stuff, you're pretty much ready to take full reign on the project.
Awesome. So now we have all of our content. What do we do next?
Get started on the project. So you start designing right away. You know, like we mentioned earlier, the name of the game is staying ahead of time. So as soon as you get that content, try to put that into your design schedule and get it out as soon as possible, so that way you can deliver drafts. And the sooner you send drafts, the sooner they can approve them and schedule out those campaigns. So yeah, once you have your content, feel free to start designing. You know, at that point you start to discuss what the designs will look like with your client, and you know, again, be ahead of time.
The nice thing about being ahead of time, and especially like blocking out schedules, is in the event that there is something that goes wrong, or you know the client's not happy with how it's designed, you will always have that extra time ahead so that you will be able to fix any issues, you know, making sure that the sale does run perfectly.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because one of the things that kills designers during the holidays is that time, like we said, right? And the reason why is because when you wait to do things, like, you know, that's when you start to rush designs, or, you know, campaigns don't even go out because there's a lot of issues with the campaign itself. So, you know, it benefits everyone at the end of the day if we're ahead of time. So
absolutely. And lastly, do you have any tips for our fellow designers?
Yeah, so some tips to kind of help you stay on track is, I personally like to do design blocks, or schedule blocks, I should say. So basically I structure out my day and I look at, okay, what are the projects that I need to work on today? And I'll say, you know, I'm going to work on this newsletter for 2 hours, and then I'm going to work on, you know, this slider for an hour. And I stick very religious to that time frame, so that in my head as I'm working on the designs, I don't get so caught up in the, you know, the extra details, or, you know, if it's a certain design element that I'm not liking, like, I'm less likely to overthink it and worry more about the end result, which is getting those, you know, getting that draft to the client as soon as possible to get that campaign launched. So, you know, create that block of schedule. I know that sometimes people don't like to work like that, but it definitely works for me, and it helps me keep organized and on track. And that's, you know, again, it's one of the things that's most difficult for us designers, because we're so caught up trying to be creative, right? That sometimes it's very difficult to stay on track. So, I mean, hopefully it works for you guys. If you guys want more details, as far as how to survive the holidays as a designer, we wrote a perspective that's pretty lengthy, and it has a lot of cool information on there that can help you out. And yeah, stay tuned for the next episode, and we hope to see you soon.